we're going to make one of these cute little kids harvest bags, which are perfect at this time of year for Easter because it means the children can have this wrapped around like a normal apron, and this creates this elasticized panel, creates this little pouch so that they can have both hands free, pop all their little eggs into the pouch, and they're not going to fall out because this piece of elastic keeps it nice and tucked in there. And no tears because everything will be safe and sound in here. And they've got their own little bag which can easily be filled up. This pattern or this idea can easily be adaptable. It can be made smaller or bigger for any size child. Let's do it. All of the pieces that you need, or all of the measurements you need for this particular size, will be in the description, but I am starting with 2 pieces of cotton fabric. This is 150 GSM, so it's got a bit of weight in it. You could definitely use a cotton canvas or something a bit lighter. It just can't have any stretch in it, so it needs to be a woven fabric. This is 16 inches by 13 inches. I have 2 pieces that I have cut to 2.5 inches wide and 25 inches long. If you don't want to sew up these straps yourself, you could just use some cotton wadding, some thick ribbon. You definitely don't have to do it the way that I'm going to do it, but I'm going to do it so it is in matching fabric. And a 10-inch piece of elastic. This is 2 centimeters wide, so just under an inch, about 3/4 of an inch. This is quite rigid, this elastic. The same as the one I used in here. If you've got something a bit narrower, it will still work, but you definitely wouldn't want it to be any firmer than this piece. What I'm going to do first is just cut out the corners of the bottom of the 2 main pieces, and I'm just going to cut out 2-inch squares, and that's because we're doing boxed out corners to give the pouch a little bit of shape. Just like that. And then it's time to sew. So preparation is really quick and easy. We just need to have our right sides together like this, and then I'm just simply going to sew down each side all the way across the bottom, and I'm also going to overlock each edge as well, and you could zigzag that if you don't have an overlocker. So this is pretty much at this stage just looking like a normal bag shape. So I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and I'll be back in a minute. Sides and the bottom are now sewn and overlocked, and now we just need to box out these corners. So just opening up corner there, matching the seams, and I'm just going to pop in to hold that there, and I'll just sew across here and again overlock the edge, and same for the other corner. You can see that I'm folding each of those seams opposite direction just to reduce a little bit of bulk. But in this project it doesn't matter too much because it is quite simple, so it won't matter. You won't really see these bottom edges too much. So I'm going to go and sew across here, finish off the edge, and I'll be back. This is where we are up to. So now you should just have a little, basically looks like a little boxed bag like this. This one's fabric, beautiful. I love it so much. Okay, so what I'm going to do is take it over to the iron. I'm going to press these seams at this stage, but I'm also going to pre-press an inch over and then another inch over, so 2 inches across the top edge all the way around. So for the next step, that will just make that pre-pressing will make things a lot easier. So I'm going to head to the iron, pre-press, and I'll come back and show you how to put the elastic in. This is how we're looking after I have pre-pressed the top edge. You can see 1 inch and then another inch there. So that will make this next step a whole lot easier. Okay, if you have a particular side that you want to be at the front of the apron, it's time to choose that now. Mine are fairly consistent. I think I might use this as the front because I like the frog and the little cottage there sort of being front and center, and the butterfly. Oh my gosh, I love this fabric. Okay, so what we're going to do is work on the elastic. So taking your piece of, like I say, I've cut mine to 10 inches. If it needs to be a little bit longer, depending on the stretch of your elastic, you can do that. You can play around a little bit, but I am working with a 10-inch piece. I'm going to fold it back out with wrong sides facing. What we need to do is we are going to sew this piece of elastic along the top edge here. So we're going to sew between the two seams. We're going to stretch it out and sew it across here. So to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pin and just secure each of the ends of the elastic, and that will just make it a bit easier when you're stretching it out, just so it doesn't flick off as you're trying to sew. So all I'm going to do is just pop in, those ends there into that seam, just to give it a bit of extra strength as well. See how I'm going to sew it across the top of that seam allowance. So I'm just going to sew here and here first, and then I'll bring you over to the machine and show you how I'm going to, basically, I'm going to stretch it out as far as it will go and sew it. Ooh, this is what I mean, much easier to do once I've actually sewn in those ends. I'm going to sew all the way across close to that top raw edge of fabric, and then again across the bottom of the elastic, but much easier to show once we get over to the machine. So each of the ends of the elastic are secured into those seam allowances, and now I'm going to sew in the elastic across the top edge of the bag. So if your machine has an arm like this, definitely take that off. It will make this job a lot easier, so you can loop it around the edge. Okay, so I'm just using straight stitch. I'm on 3mm long, so probably make it a little longer than you normally would. And to get started, I'm just going to do a couple of stitches to lock it in. And now what you'll need to do is stretch out this elastic as far as you can go, or in my case, this elastic needs to be pulled as tight as it can, but obviously keeping the cotton flat. I'm going to grip it in my right hand like that, and then you are going to need to pull through at the back, because there is a whole lot of tension going on with that elastic. If you just try and pull at the front, it won't cope with it. It will move around all over the place. My machine has an automatic setting that the needle stops in the down position each time. If you don't have that setting, you will need to manually rotate your needle down to lock that in so you can stretch out the next section of elastic. Just working in sections. And then I'm just going to do the same again at the bottom of the elastic. If your elastic is narrow on this, you might just go straight through the middle of it. So if it's only sort of an inch wide, something like that, you probably could just do one row of stitching. So pulling tight. Stitch, and all done. So now you can see this beautiful, nicely evenly gathered row of elastic across that top raw edge. And now we're going to have a look at how to hem over the top of the bag. Next step is to hem this top edge of the bag. So I'm going to start on the non-elasticized side, and this is where the pre-pressing now makes life a whole lot easier. So we're just going to roll that over, and I'm just going to use a couple of pins to hold it in place. You can use clips, whatever it is that you're used to using. I mean, if you don't want to use pins, you could probably get away with not bothering, given that we've pre-pressed. Pre-pressing is, gee, it makes your life a lot easier when you're sewing. Very underrated thing to do. Okay, So that side, I'm just going to pin like that. And then on this side, because of the elastic, it's going to be quite hard to pin flat. But what you'll find is when you take it to the machine, you're going to do the same thing as when you sewed in the elastic and just stretch it out to be able to sew along this folded edge. So we're going to do one loop. I'm going to start on the flat side first and then just keep sewing and sew along this edge as well, but it will be stretched out like this. And then that will create and finish off the bag part of the apron. So it's nice and easy. Bag part of the apron is now complete. I'm just going to give it a nice press, but this is what we should be looking. So nice elasticized front, keep all those goodies in. Back is nice and flat for against the body, and then time to put the straps on. You can skip this step if you just want to use ribbon, or if you've got some cotton webbing, something like that. But hang about if you want to make the straps in the same way that I have for mine. So these are 25 inches long. Again, they can be adjusted to be longer or shorter, and I've made them 2.5 inches wide. I'm just simply going to fold them over like this and sew all the way along each edge up to about here, leave a couple of inches open, and then I'm going to sew along that edge and down here as well. And the reason I like to do it this way is if the opening is here, I just find it's much easier to turn out to the right side rather than leaving one edge open. And then you have far less bulk, and I don't know, it's just the way that I like to do my straps. The other option you could do is a simple one where you fold in the right sides and then just do it all as a top stitch, but I am going to, straps are sewn. I'm just going to trim off the corners, get rid of some of the bulk before I turn them right sides out. And like I say, I've just left, how many inches did I leave open? About 3-4 inches in the middle there. I think this is a technique some people who make scrunchies use to sew the seam is not at the edge. I just find that always really awkward. And I'm going to use my chopstick. Again, this underrated tool in my sewing studio. I use this all the time. So just going to turn it through a little bit. Now, sometimes I get this straight away, sometimes I don't. Oh, it's being friendly today. And then just carefully pushing through. Don't be too aggressive, otherwise you'll go through those corners. And then I can do the same at the other end. And don't push too hard, otherwise you will poke through your corners when you get down to here. So just nice and gently. And then now I'm going to take it over, give it a press, and when I press it, I will just tuck in those raw edges. And then I'm going to just top stitch all the way around and that will enclose that open edge. That's what the straps look like now that they've been pressed. So that raw edge is nice and pressed inside, and as I said, I'm now just going to top stitch all the way around the edges. Straps are finished, and we're up to our last step, which is just adding them on to the little pouch. So with the straps, they need to be facing the back, the part that goes against the body. So I just did a little square here with a little crisscross, and that's what I'm going to do again here. I'm going to have that folded edge facing down, and I'm just going to pin it, so not on the elastic, just that section there next to the side seam, pop a pin, and do the same on the other side. This is our last step. Every time I use this fabric, I find something new. Like, it is just the cutest. Today I've been looking, oh, see on this piece, there's these little raspberries on here. Look how cute the raspberries are. Such a beautiful print. Anyway, I digress. Okay, let's sew on the straps and then we're finished. We are finished, and if that's not the sweetest thing ever, I'm not sure what is. If this tied around the waist concept is sort of, if the child is younger and this isn't going to work too well, you could definitely make just a normal, you know, you could have, or you could add a bib to this section, and with the strap that goes around the neck, so that they're not relying on this. Obviously, younger children, tying things around the waist doesn't work quite as well because they've still got their little baby fat. So definitely a pattern that is easily adaptable. Great that it can be washed, so if anything melts or gets dirty, it can be thrown in the wash and can be used year after year. So we don't need to use plastic baskets and things like that as well. I think it is absolutely adorable.